welcome to the build guide for the Chamberlain bust by BrokenToad, Blacksun Miniatures and the Jim Henson Company. Chamberlain is one of the simpler busts in the Kickstarter, but there's still a few things to know, especially if you're a beginner. There is a slight gate on the back of the head which needs taking down, and you might want to give it a brush with sort of an old toothbrush just to get rid of any excess flash on some of the more detailed areas. Once you've done that, you can glue the head straight in. Okay, so these two notches down here are meant to be there, so please don't trim them off. They are the mounting points for the hands. There's also a couple of little indents between those, which is where the ornament or necklace will sit. So there's a bit of flash, a bit of excess resin on the end of the necklace, so just trim that off and clean it up, and then that piece can be glued on. Make sure you glue this piece on first, because if you glue the hands in and then try and get this piece in, it will be very tricky to do. So there is a slight order to things. I would also recommend keeping the hands separate for painting. If you're trying to get in there with a brush, when they're all glued together, you might not be able to get to some of the fingers. So there's a couple of little mould lines on the hands and a resin gate on the end of each one. So just slice that off. Put it on a table if you're not sure. Obviously, if you are unfamiliar with sharp instruments such as scalpels and using them for the hobby, please be very, very careful. And if you are younger, make sure you seek adult supervision. So there's a slight mould line along the thumb there, which we can just trim down. And on the side of the finger there. On the other hand, there's a little bit going in towards the wrist, so just be very, very careful trimming that down. There are some wrinkle details and things which you don't want to carve away. So if you just keep that in mind, and you can see what I'm doing here is just carving into the wrinkle detail to make sure it stays there. And a little bit up the side of the finger as well. It's basically just making sure that there isn't anything that looks out of place on the model. Little tiny bit on the thumb, which just can be scraped down. There's also a resin gate on the end, which you can trim off. And either carve that down or just give it a sand with some sandpaper. Also a little bit, just a hint of a mould line just where the hand connects onto the body as well. So just smooth that out. There we go, that's looking pretty good. Just a tiny bit more inside there. Now there are indentations in the ruffled section of the sleeves, which will match up to the torso. But if you're unsure, a couple of pieces of blue tack onto those locating pegs, and you can pop the hands on just to see how they look and to see how you want them positioned. As I said before, you may want to keep these separate for painting, but you can get an idea of how they look and how they should be glued into place once you're done. As I said before, it is quite a simple build, but absolutely fantastically detailed kit of one of the most interesting characters in the whole of the Dark Crystal. And those are the indentations which match up to the body. That's it all together. If you want to drill for a plinth, drill in the centre or towards the back so the necklace fits over the front. So, thank you ever so much for watching. This has been the build guide for the Chamberlain bust from BrokenToad, Blacksun Miniatures and the Jim Henson Company. Bye bye.